Well, good day, everyone. We have some good stuff to go through today regarding LIV and the PGA Tour merger. The CEO of LIV Golf, Scott O'Neill, said a number of things, and we're going to go through them and compare them to what Jay Monahan from the PGA Tour has said and what Rory McIlroy has said. And then at the very end, we're going to get a glimpse of what the merger between the PGA Tour and LIV is going to look like. This is straight from Scott O'Neill's mouth, what he said about the merger. It's very interesting, and I don't think very many people have heard this, and I've got it for you. I've got the stuff. But have you heard what he said right here during the Adelaide broadcast?
You don't have to look too far past our leaderboard to know that outside of the majors, if you want to see the best players in the world, there's only one place to see it, and that's at LIV.
Wow. Okay, so the place to see the best players in the world is LIV, is what he's saying. And do you agree or disagree with that? And you don't have to go too far. So we're going to look at the Adelaide leaderboard here and just see. You don't have to go too far down our leaderboard. Outside of the majors is what he said to find the best players in the world. Well, Joaquin Niemann won. I would agree he is one of the best players in the world. What do you think? Then we have Carlos Ortiz. And tough to say if he's one of the best. Abraham Answer, he's a good player. David Puig, good. Richard Bland is probably one of the best Champions Tour level players. He's over 50 years old. He's a stick, but he's over 50. So is he one of the best in the world? But this is just one tournament. I get it. We got John Rahm, and we've got Harold Varner. He's good. He's one of the most fun players in the world, I would agree. And then Brooks is down there. Now, they only have 54 players in the event, so you really don't have to go too far to see all the players. But you tell me, are these the best players in the world? I mean, we're eliminating all the PGA Tour guys. We're not eliminating, but if you want to see the best players in the world, you don't have to go too far down their leaderboard to see them, but you're not seeing Scotty Scheffler, you're not seeing Rory McIlroy, you're not seeing Ludwig Oberg, you're not seeing Morikawa. What about Xander Schauffele? What about Patrick Cantlay? What about all those guys on the PGA Tour? I would say, in my opinion, forget world rankings and all that, because that's kind of a little shady still at the moment, but I would say currently, the best players in the world are split. I'm going to give 4 out of 10 to LIV, and the other 6 of the top 10 are on the PGA Tour. Because of the 4, I'm going to put in there Joaquin Niemann. I'd say he's one of the top 4 players in the world. I'd say Bryson probably is. He did win a major championship. And then what about Terrell Hatton? I'm going to put him in there because he's one of the top guys. And take your pick. Is it Brooks? Maybe, maybe not. You make the call. But Rahm is in there. Cam Smith. Cam Smith's kind of borderline. But I would say LIV, of the top 10, if you really ranked them truly, they would have 4 out of 10. And then 11, 12, they might have a few more down there. So it's fairly split. One more player that plays well on LIV for a few weeks could jump into the top 10 players in the world if you had like an objective committee really giving you a true world ranking. So this is interesting. Well, I want to know your thoughts. What do you think? Who has the best players in the world currently on their tour? LIV or the PGA Tour? I'll leave it up to you. You guys are what matters. Now, we're going to get into what was said about the merger between LIV and the PGA Tour. And I've got a few clips that you may or may not have heard. We're going to go through them because they're all important for what Scott O'Neill is going to give us here at the end.
This negotiation is a complex one. So there are a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different constituents. But I would just tell you at this point, all of the interested parties are talking, are moving forward, and I think all have the right outcome in mind, the outcome that the president himself has expressed, which is, the game of golf, under one tour with all the best players in the world playing.
Okay, so Jay Monahan, commissioner of the PGA Tour, he even said that the President Trump, they all have in mind having the best players playing under one tour. That's Jay Monahan talking on Golf Channel. Even the president. Now, you let me know. This is what's interesting. We know Donald Trump did the video with Bryson DeChambeau that has 15 plus million views. Ridiculous. Bryson was at the inauguration. He's been at all the stuff. He was at the winning night party, whatever you call that. He was there in President Trump's camp. He was there. Like, he's been a part of the journey with President Trump. So they're friends. Fair enough. According to Monahan, the president wants there to be all the best players playing under one tour. Rory McIlroy was rumored of saying that he played or he met with Donald Trump or played with them, and that he said to Rory that he didn't even like LIV and that he wants there to be everybody on the PGA Tour. The problem I have with this, and you let me know your thoughts, is that President Trump is of the demographic that watches Golf Channel and the PGA Tour. He's the age range. He's the demographic of the PGA Tour currently. The demographic the PGA Tour is trying to get is way younger. They want that 35-year-old, demo. That's what they're looking for. So if President Trump says what he likes or doesn't like, should it matter? Because he's not really the target audience that they're going for. So for Rory to even say that would be something that I would question, because, like, wait a sec. He's not the guy you're going after. You're going after this person. So if he wants and likes the PGA Tour and doesn't like LIV, that's what's supposed to happen, because LIV is targeting a much younger audience. You let me know your thoughts on that. But according to Monahan right now, even the president wants there to be one tour with all the best players. So do I. I think that would be fantastic. Here's what Rory says about this whole thing.
I think everyone's just got to get over it, and we all have to say, okay, this is the starting point, and we move forward. We don't look behind us. We don't look to the past. We just, whatever's happened has happened, and it's been unfortunate, but reunification, how we all come back together and move forward, that's the best thing for everyone. So, like, if people are butthurt or have their feelings hurt because guys went and whatever, like, who cares? Like, let's move forward together and let's just try to get this thing going again and do what's best for the game.
You got to love Rory. At least I like the unfiltered Rory. Just say it. I'm a fan of that. Say it, and then we can kind of pick up the pieces later and say, oh, okay, apologize or whatever you need to do. It doesn't matter. But he says you got to get over it. Meaning, if you went to LIV and you come back, too bad for the guys who don't like it. Get over your thoughts on that, please. What if you bailed, went to LIV, collected $100 million, and now you're like, hey, I'm back. Woo-hoo. Who wants to fly in my jet? Would you be upset? It's a tough one. I don't know if I'd be upset. I might have said to myself, dang it, I should have gotten the money too. If I had known, I would. We all live this life, and we've got to make choices, and we got to take risks, and we got to decide whether or not this is right or not right for us. And going to LIV is something that people chose based on money, and they said time and all this other stuff and freedom, whatever. There's a cost. You get financial benefit, but there's always a cost. So it's tricky. If you got a lot of money and there's no cut, and you're going to make a decent amount, at least 50 grand per tournament minimum, and everything's covered, your expenses are covered, like, how hard do you work, right? We all have jobs, whatever it is. Like, I have to make a video on my main channel. Like, I have to make videos to make money. So I have to make this many. There's a threshold I need to get to make a living. We all do that in our work. You're a salesperson. You have quotas to hit, goals to meet. You have a number that you have to get to. You sell homes. You have to sell this many homes to pay for your life. So there's pressure. You've got to do stuff to make money. And now if you've got all the money and you're still competing at the highest level in sport, but you don't have to work as hard, man, that's tough. You're not going to be the best. So I can see why players on LIV, their game might not be as high caliber, as high quality as it was when they were on the tour, PGA Tour, because you don't like missing a cut. So you're going to grind a little extra after Thursday practice. After Thursday round, you're going to go hit that range and say, man, I got to work this out. Whereas at LIV, you're like, man, I'm going to dinner. It'll work itself out. And I think that's the big challenge. Here's what else Rory had to say. I love this.
Having Bryson DeChambeau come back and play on this tour is good. I think he should have the ability to earn equity, but I think what we have been given equity in this tour as a, I guess, quote unquote compensate, like for being loyal in some way or staying. But I think these guys coming back, I think they should have the opportunity to earn equity, which I think will happen with, there's going to be these recurring equity grants every year. So I think they should have the opportunity to earn it, but I don't think they should be given it right away.
Okay, so these guys can earn equity into the PGA Tour. So the PGA Tour has given equity to the players, certain players, and you can earn equity based on whatever factors there are. And we're going to just listen to what's coming up here, but what do you think about that? Should a guy who bailed and earned all that money come back, and one of the incentives, one of the little carrots on the end of the string for coming back is you can now earn equity and be an owner of the PGA Tour enterprises. That's an interesting thing. It's not a bad thing. It's, hey, I went and got all this money. Now I'm going to go earn equity over here as well. That's tricky. What are your thoughts?
We have come up with so many different models over the last couple of years. We're as prepared as you could ever be, and excited about the possibilities here.
That's Monahan talking about merging with LIV. More of what he said, but what does Scott O'Neill say about it? I'm going to play you a clip from his podcast he does called the Girl Dad Podcast. It's with his daughter, who hosts the podcast with him. They do it together. It's mostly her, but he is part of it. And she asks him a lot of questions. There's an edit in there. So she asks about, is there a merger? And then he just brings up somebody else's name that they both knew. And so I just clipped that part out. So if you see an edit, you just know I trimmed it up just to be, so you know everything that's going on here when you see the little edit, just to make the clip a little shorter. But here is what he says about this merger, this partnership with LIV and the PGA Tour. You've heard Monahan. Rory says, get over it, come back, earn equity. Yes, we want Bryson. It would be fine. It would be great. We like the guy. You've heard everything from Monahan. Now let's hear from Scott O'Neill.
PGA and LIV merger. Is it happening? What's the situation with that?
Yeah. It's actually been a bit misreported as a merger.
Okay.
So I mentioned the Public Investment Fund, the PIF. That's the investment arm. It almost operates much like a private equity firm, where the private equity firm is a company that raises money and then buys companies effectively. So that's what PIF is, or one function of them. And so they are looking to make an investment into PGA enterprises.
Okay.
Okay. And so it wouldn't be a merger, but we'd have a similar investor sponsor. They own almost 100% of LIV. And they would own a percentage of PGA. And what hopefully that unlocks is an opportunity to work together. Because wouldn't you want to see like the PGA players against the LIV players?Ouldn't you want to see some PGA players in LIV events and some LIV players in PGA events?
Absolutely.
Of course. Now, all that stuff is conjecture. But I'm really fortunate to have a relationship with Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA. He's a dear friend, longtime friend, and a great executive. And we'll be able to work some fun out. So hopefully,
that's so great.
Yeah, hopefully we'll just get this thing done.
That's interesting. Now, he said a lot there, a lot. One is he said the merger is being misreported, misconstrued. And there's a misconception about it because the PIF owns, he said, a large percentage, a large portion of LIV. Now, that's the investor group. And they look, and he said they act like a lot of private equity groups that go out and then look for other ways to invest. So they got trillions of dollars, whatever they got. They got a lot of money. So they own LIV, most of it. Who owns the rest of it? Who do you think? Who do you think owns the rest of LIV? They own most of it, he said. Who owns the rest? Greg Norman? Possibly. There's probably a few people. Who knows? Maybe Phil Mickelson's got a little piece of it. Maybe Dustin Johnson. Maybe the early people. Who knows? So some people else own it. So he said that. He said that they're looking to invest in PGA Enterprises, PGA Tour. So they want to be part of that, which they've done or are doing. And that will hopefully unlock some opportunities. Now, then he says, yeah, it would be great to see LIV players on the PGA Tour and PGA Tour players playing on LIV. And that would be really cool. And I think we would all agree, we would like to see all the best players play more consistently together in big events. But then he says he's got a great relationship with Jay Monahan and that they go back, great friendship relationship. And he's like, yeah, well, sure, we'll work something fun out. Like, it's no big deal. It's just, we're going to get this done. Now, he sounds very different than Jay Monahan. Jay Monahan sounds very corporate, very like, we've got corporate, board, all this stuff behind us. And Scott O'Neill sounds a little more just relaxed, more like private equity, investor group, startup company. It's like, yeah, we'll figure something out. So on one hand, you've got this new CEO who has a lot of relationships in this business sports world. He's got a great background. Look him up, do your research. And he does this podcast and it gives us a great insight that it's not a merger. There's no merger. This is what's interesting. How do you merge Jon Rahm back into the PGA Tour? Jon Rahm owns or is a part owner of Legion. He owns a team. Phil Mickelson is a captain / owner of a team. These guys own these teams. LIV has signed a deal with Adelaide through 2031. So we have another 5-6 years in Australia. LIV is not going anywhere. It's not like they're going to just fold all these guys back into the PGA Tour and LIV is going to be gone. That's not happening. There's no disappearing of LIV golf. It is going to stay. And these players who own teams or are captains, they own the team. That's their team. Phil's not giving up his ownership in his team. And this reporting of them having to renegotiate contracts and that they didn't expect it is ridiculous. Them not planning for this did not happen. They've planned for it from the beginning. They knew what they were doing. They're signing players like they sign a baseball pitcher to a roster. After your contract is up, you're a free agent. Do we renegotiate and keep you, or do we move you on? So now the negotiation happens inside teams as well. So another team, if Bryson's contract is up, well, he may very well own part of his team, so he's not going to leave his team. But you take somebody else who may or may not, Joaquin Neiman, let's say he doesn't own any of his team, and is his contract up? Well, another team would offer him money, and these teams are getting big corporate money behind them as well. So each team is its own franchise, and franchises don't just vanish. And the owner of a franchise just doesn't bail and go play for a whole nother league. No, it just doesn't happen. So they most definitely thought about multiple rounds of contract. You don't sign a contract with somebody for 3 years and then just sweep it under the rug and hope it disappears. It's not a deep, dark family secret. What it is a 3-year contract. And then you, as a maker of this contract, say, hey, what do we do after that? You do that beforehand. And then you negotiate more, you negotiate less. You say, here's what you've made. You come to the table. That's what everybody does. So to report or even speculate that they didn't expect these things and they're not prepared for them is absolutely ridiculous. Let me know your thoughts, because I've heard people say stuff like that, and it just is like, I don't know where you get this stuff, but that's not the way it works. Let me know your thoughts about all this. Comment below. Thanks so much for listening. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and we'll see you real soon.